The Fair Political Practices Commission, or the FPPC, welcomes you to our video series for Form 700 filers. This introductory module will discuss what you need to know in order to complete your Form 700. Please note that in addition to resources on our website, we are available by phone or email if you have further questions after watching this video. You should not rely on this video alone for help. Also note that during the video, we will refer to both the Form 700 and Statement of Economic Interests. In general, the Form 700 is the form before it is completed, while the statement is a completed form. In 1974, California voters passed the Political Reform Act, which included the creation of the Fair Political Practices Commission. To learn more about the FPPC, pause the slideshow and read about our history. During this training module, we will discuss the items noted on this slide. Feel free to pause the slideshow and read the bullets to see what we will be discussing. To complete the Form 700, there are two items you should have. The first is the Form 700, the second is your agency's Conflict of Interest Code. You may print a hard copy of the Form 700 from FPPC's website. If you file electronically, you will not need a hard copy, but you will need to access the system. If you do not have your ID and password for the system, please contact your filing officer. This is the person who asked you to complete the Form 700, whose roles and responsibilities we will discuss later. Unfortunately, only filers whose agencies have purchased an e-filing system have the option of filing electronically. As for the Conflict of Interest Code, you must request it from your filing officer. Hopefully she or he has already provided you with it. The remaining bullets on the slide show other resources that you may find helpful when completing the Form 700. This slide shows how to get to the Form 700 page on our website. From our homepage, click on the box that says File a Form 700. The page that opens not only has a link to the form, but to all the resources noted on the previous slide. So what is the Form 700? The Form 700 is the tool used by public officials to disclose their financial interests that could have an impact on their decisions as public officials. Your completed Form 700, or Statement of Economic Interests, will provide transparency to help the public identify potential conflicts of interest. It also serves as a reminder to you of what conflicts you may encounter in your daily work. Please note that a Statement of Economic Interest is a public document that must be made available to anyone upon request. Some agencies post their filers' completed statements on their website. Other agencies keep hard copies to be distributed if requested. FPPC posts statements from certain elected officials on our website. As you can see from this slide, there are several types of officials who file the Form 700. The most common type of filer is a designated filer or code filer. These are people whose job duties require them to make or participate in making governmental decisions, and they are thus included in their agency's Conflict of Interest Code. Some examples might be Assistant Division Chief, Data Processing Manager, or Facilities Planning Specialist. We will discuss Conflict of Interest codes on the next slide, but for now let's focus on the types of Form 700 filers. The second type of filer noted on the slide is an 87200 filer. While designated filers are required to file Form 700 because they are included in their agency's Conflict of Interest Code, 87200 filers are high-level officials, oftentimes elected, who are required by state law, specifically Government Code Section 87200, to file the Form 700. 87200 filers have full disclosure, meaning they are required to disclose all reportable interest in their applicable jurisdiction. Some examples of 87200 filers include state legislators, county supervisors, mayors, and city council members. Additionally, an agency may determine that there are other positions at their agency that qualify as 87200 positions because they manage public funds. Filing officers may also collect completed statements from board and commission members, alternates, ex officios, and board commission designees, even if the position is unpaid. Sometimes after a Conflict of Interest Code has been adopted or amended, an agency creates a new position whose duties require disclosure. If you are in such a position, you may be asked to complete an assuming office statement, and you will be required to submit annual statements as well. Consultants are in a similar position and must complete the Form 700 if their duties require it. In the absence of a written document narrowing disclosure responsibilities, consultants must complete the Form 700 with full disclosure, as 87200 filers do. Candidates for elected positions are also required to submit a completed Form 700 with their declaration of candidacy. They should disclose financial interest as required for the position they are seeking. So what is a Conflict of Interest Code exactly? The code is a document that identifies positions within the agency that make or participate in making governmental decisions. It also assigns disclosure responsibilities to all those identified. All state and local government agencies must adopt a conflict of interest code. Filers with broad decision-making authority have broad disclosure responsibilities. Filers with more narrow decision-making authority should be assigned limited disclosure based on their financial interests that may impact their decisions as public officials. As you complete your Form 700, remember that you need only to disclose financial interests per your assigned category or categories in the Conflict of Interest Code. For example, an agency's executive director must report all interest and thus would have to review all schedules of the Form 700 to see if she has anything to report on each. She would be required to report her stock in Microsoft, half of her husband's income from his job at Coca-Cola, and possibly the names of those who rent her ski lodge in Lake Tahoe. However, an IT manager for the agency may be assigned limited disclosure responsibilities and would only be required to report technical related interests. Thus, he would report his Microsoft stock as well as income from his computer repair business located in his jurisdiction. He would not have to report his stock in Coca-Cola and probably not the income from those who rent his ski lodge in Lake Tahoe. As you can see, it is important that you have a copy of your Conflict of Interest Code with the disclosure categories. If you do not have a copy of your agency's code, please request one from your filing officer. This slide shows sample designated positions and disclosure categories. Please pause the slideshow to review and compare the disclosure requirements for the different positions. Also take a moment to read through the disclosure categories. Your agency's code probably looks similar to this one. Please take the time to find your position in your agency's code and see what category or categories have been assigned to your position. As noted on this slide, the deadline for the annual statement is April 1st for most filers. For others, the deadline for the annual statement is March 1st. For annual filers, the period you are reporting for is generally the previous calendar year. If you are a new filer, you must file a statement within 30 days of being sworn in or authorized to serve in your new job. When you leave your job, you will have to file another statement within 30 days of when you leave. These are called, appropriately, assuming and leaving office statements. Please note that if you change jobs but stay with the same agency, you are generally not required to complete assuming and leaving office statements. If you move to another agency, you will have to file a leaving office statement for your current position. The filing officer at your new agency should tell you if you have to file an assuming office statement for the new position. If after submitting your Form 700 you realize that you didn't report something you should have, or you reported something incorrectly, you must submit an amendment. You do not need to complete the entire form again, only the schedule that needs a correction. You can find specific amendment schedules on our website. There is no deadline for filing an amendment, but you should file one as soon as possible upon finding the error or omission. Your amendment will be attached to and retained with the original statement. The original statement is not destroyed. While filing officers cannot extend a filing deadline, there are sometimes exceptions to due dates. If the standard March 1st or April 1st due date falls on a weekend or holiday, the completed statement is due the next business day. If you were lucky enough to have started your current job on or after October 1st of the last year, and you filed an assuming office statement within 30 days of your start date, you do not have to file an annual statement this year. If you are leaving office before the deadline for the annual statement, you may file a combined leaving office and annual statement. This is only possible if you are leaving before the deadline for the annual statement and if you file the statement by the appropriate deadline. We have mentioned filing officers in previous slides, but you may not know who your filing officer is or what he or she does. Your agency's filing officer is the person responsible for collecting, reviewing, and retaining the completed statements for your agency. In cities, it is probably the city clerk. In counties, it may be the clerk of the board. In state agencies and other local agencies, such as special districts, it is usually the person who asks you to complete the Form 700. This slide shows how filing officers can help you, the filer. Please take a moment to read through the bullet points. In reference to filing officers reviewing your statement, note that they are required by law to review statements and to request amendments if there are obvious errors or omissions. If your filing officer asks you to make a change to your statement, we hope that you will see this as assistance. It is better that the filing officer find the error rather than someone else who might file a complaint with FPPC's Enforcement Division. Note that while your officer will review your completed statements, she or he will not perform an investigation. It is your signature on the form. Thus, you are responsible for the content of the statement and for its accuracy. Unfortunately, filing officers cannot provide detailed answers to your questions on what information to include on your statements. For those types of questions, you should contact FPPC, as we are trained to handle your fact-specific questions. FPPC recently launched an electronic filing system for the approximately 25,000 filers whose original statements are forwarded to us. This new system is only for filers whose statements are retained by FPPC. If you are not sure where your completed statement is retained, please review your agency's Conflict of Interest Code or ask your filing officer. If your agency already has an electronic filing system, you will probably continue to file with your home agency system. If you are not sure which system to use, please contact your filing officer. Sometimes an e-filing system doesn't work properly, or you simply don't know how to use it. Unfortunately, our advice team cannot help you with your agency's e-filing system because all agencies purchase their own software and we are not equipped to support the various platforms. For help with your agency system, please contact your filing officer. For help with FPPC's system, please send an email to form700@fppc.ca.gov. Finally, if you do not file using FPPC's electronic filing system and your agency does not have an e-filing system, you will file a hard copy of your statement with your filing officer. As you complete your statement, keep in mind the following. First, your agency's code may require you to disclose only specific financial interests. Please review your code carefully to see what you are being asked to report. Also, you only have to report interest or sources that are located in or doing business in your agency's jurisdiction. Additionally, you should consider what types of financial interests you hold. Some interests, such as mutual funds and government income, are not reportable. Consider the threshold amounts for reporting too. These are shown on each schedule of the Form 700. If a reportable interest does not meet the minimum threshold noted on the schedule, you do not have to report that particular interest. To find out more about ways to narrow your disclosure, see the instructions on the Form 700. Each schedule provides list and other information on common reportable and non-reportable interests. If you take the time to read them, you may be surprised to find that you don't have anything to report. If you have further questions on completing your Form 700, we are available to help. For questions on what to disclose or how to disclose it, call us at the number above or send us an email. If you are having technical problems with your agency's e-filing system, please contact the filing officer at your agency to see who provides support for your system. If you are having technical issues with FPPC's system, please send an email to the address noted on this slide. This concludes the introductory training module on the Form 700. Thank you for your interest in FPPC training.